Oh, there you are. I've been looking everywhere for you. It's time for corn. Summertime fresh sweet corn. You want to go to the galley with me? And let's make some? Let's go. Hi, I'm Gary, and welcome to my galley. In the galley today, you guessed it, we're all about the corn. It is summertime, and that means corn time. Now, corn plays a huge, huge part in American history. The Native Americans considered it the staff of life, and the Native Americans had what they called the Three Sisters, and the Three Sisters was corn, beans, and squash. And it was an ingenious way to plant because they would plant the corn, and then they would put the beans under the corn. So the corn provided the beans something to crawl up while they're searching for the light, and it gave them something to crawl up, and in return, the beans would fertilize the corn. The squash would then be planted around them, and the squash is kind of like a ground cover, and that helped keep down the weeds. And the squash leaves would be prickly, and that helped keep away small predators. So corn has been an amazing part of American history for thousands of years, and today America is the number one producer of corn in the world. And Iowa, you pay a big part of that. Iowa is our major producer of corn. And 99% of the corn Iowa grows is not for us to eat, but it is for feed and more things that I have time to tell you. But I can tell you that when you go into a grocery store, there are roughly about 4,000 items in that grocery store that use corn in some way. Now, of course, we all know about cornstarch and cornmeal and corn syrup and bourbon, but it's also in diapers, it's in aspirin, it's in glue, it's even in sweeteners like Splenda and Equal, and of course, it's in gas and ethanol. So corn is quite the amazing plant that we derive so many different things from it. So we're going to give thanks to the corn today by first we're going to grill, because I think grilling is probably the way we cook it the most, and that's really because it's simple and easy and quick. You know, this time of year we're having corn 3 or 4 times a week, and most of that is probably grilled. We're going to do Billy's favorite, which is cream style corn. And we're going to do one of my favorites, which is sauteed with red peppers, because I think corn and red peppers are just a beautiful marriage. They just go together so well and really complement each other. So if you are ready to start this venture into corn with me today, well, let's get started. So one way to grill corn is in its husk. And when you grill corn in its husk, the husk protects it, obviously, but it also kind of lends it a little bit of smokiness as those corn husks start to grill. Now, I don't typically do this, and the reason that I don't is because to do corn grilled in the husk, you have to soak it in water for at least 30 minutes. And when you're on a boat and water is precious, this is just not something I want to dedicate this amount of water to, because you really need to submerge your corn and let it soak. So I typically don't do it in the husk for that reason. But we are today just to show you how I'm going to do these 2 ears in the husk. Them in the husk. You want to shuck them part way because you want to remove the silks. So you want to pull that down almost till you get to the bottom without pulling it off. Remove your silks. We're going to pull that other side down. I'm going to pull that other side down and remove the silk from that side. And then you would pour this husk back up. And sometimes if there's a lot, like this one has a lot, you can remove some of those outer ones. You don't really need that many. And then soak it in water. Got a couple different kinds of corn today. This one is what they call Devotion. It's a sweet, sweet white corn. And this one is what they call Obsession, which is a mix of white and yellow. Now there's a lot of ways that people take the silks off. Some people use a brush. You could use a paper towel. I kind of just use my hands, but I also have this scrunchie that I crocheted that I use for pans, and I can use that and help get some of that silk off. So my method for cutting corn off the cob is to put a ramekin in a bowl, and that way as I cut down, I can cut all the way down, and then the corn just falls around it. Now this corn I cut to saute, and I cut all the way to the cob so that we have individual kernels of corn, because we're going to saute that, and I want that to be left whole. Now this corn is more shaved, so when I cut it, I don't want to come all the way into the cob. I just want to go down through the middle of it. And if you can see how thin that is, how thin that corn is, so I didn't cut it all the way. And then you can see it start to, the starch, or they call this milking it. So I'm going to go all the way around, just going down, not even halfway, but maybe about halfway into that kernel. And this corn is for our creamed corn. So this is how you cream corn. Now, you can see how much starch is in this, and then you just take your knife and run it down, and you collect all of that starch. And this is what helps thicken your cream corn. And I will tell you that very young corn will not cream like this. And I think some corns, they have, I guess, changed the genetics of them, because I don't think corn in general has as much starch or as much milk, if you want to call it that. That's what it's always been called. Milking the cob has as much starch as it used to. But when you feel like you've got all that beautiful starch out of there, then that is how you cream corn. So I choose to wrap mine in foil. Now you hear different people say you have to do the shiny side in, the shiny side out, but the people who make aluminum foil say it doesn't make any difference. One side touches metal, one side doesn't, and that's why one side's shiny and one side's not. So I've got my ear of corn, and I'm going to spread butter over it. And this is one way I like to do the foil, because I can season it. I can put this butter, and it's just going to cook in this butter and in my seasonings. When it's finished, I'm going to top it with either butter or some of my compound butters. But an also benefit to doing it in the foil is when it comes off the grill and it's sitting in the foil, It'll stay warm for a good 10-15 minutes. So I'm going to use black pepper here. I think corn and black pepper are a good combo. And that's pretty much it. I am going to wrap this up in my protective little foil here. And we're going to grill it. So I'm going to finish wrapping these up. And then I will see you out at the grill. So here we are out here at the grill, and I want my grill between 400 and 450. Now another good thing about grilling the corn in the foil is if it gets done before everything else is done, you can always just pop it up here to keep it warm. Well, we're going to put our corn down. You can hear that sizzle where I was soaking the corn in the water. So I'm going to go back to the galley. 10 minutes, we're going to set our timer. I'm going to flip it for another 10 minutes. And just like that, we have grilled corn. So in my 10-inch skillet, I have over medium-high heat about 2 tablespoons of butter. And I think with corn, the more butter, the better. And I'm just going to do a quick saute, and I did a half an onion. And I just want to let that become translucent for about a minute here. And to that, I'm going to add 1 red bell pepper that I small diced. I think it was Chef George that first introduced me to red peppers and corn together. And it just goes so well, those two. So if I have found that 1 ear of corn produces about a half of a cup of corn when you cut it off the cob. So I try to do about 4 cups so that we will have leftovers. We can have it one night and then the next night. So I've got about 4 cups of corn here. When I see this, and I don't want anything to be overcooked or soggy. I still want my red peppers to have a little bit of a bite to them, so I'm not going to cook them too awful long. I am going to add some minced garlic, and that's about 3 cloves of garlic, and that depends on the size of the garlic. They were fairly small. If they were large, I'd probably just do 1. And then in with my corn. And I only want this to cook about 5 minutes. This is not something, again, that I want to overcook. I just want to give this a quick saute. I want it to start taking on all of these flavors. And I'm going to do 2 good pinches of salt. And if it looks like it's getting dry on me, I'm going to add some pepper, or some butter. But I'm going to do some black pepper. Again, I think corn and black pepper go well together. I like when the grocery stores in the summer have the big trash bag by the corn, and you chuck it there. I think when you live on a boat, you appreciate things like that because you don't have to worry about that trash of the corn husk. Although sometimes if I know it's going to be a few days, I like to keep it in the husk because then that keeps it fresher longer. And I'm going to add just a little bit more butter. So as you can see, the sauteed corn with red peppers is a very fast side dish. 5 minutes in the skillet, and it's ready to go. So we're going to give this a minute, and we're going to go out and check on our corn. So here we are, 10 minutes are up. Can you hear it? It is cooking in there. We're just going to give it a flip. And you can see how our husks are browning, but our corn is still protected. So we're going to give that a husk. We're going to give that a turn. And another 10 minutes, and our grilled corn will be ready. So our corn is sauteed with our red peppers. This corn's almost done. Only one more to go. Let's go do the cream corn. So on to the cream corn. Now, for the cream corn, again, I have my 10-inch. I did about 2 tablespoons of butter. I apologize for your new view, but I was having a hard time with my overhead. I just decided to make life easy on myself. So, half of a sweet onion, pretty finely diced. And I want to let this get translucent. That usually takes a good minute or two. So my onions have been cooking for a minute or two. And I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of flour. And I'm going to make this roux that's going to help thicken our cream corn. And you want to, whenever you make a roux, whenever you have raw flour, you want to cook that for at least a minute because it takes that minute for that raw flour taste to cook out. So once my flour taste is cooked out, I am going to add a cup of cream. You'll see that start to thicken. And one thing that's important about roux too, if you made a roux up ahead of time, is the rule is if it's a hot roux, then the liquid has to be cold. If the roux is cold, the liquid has to be hot. Now I just added an entire 8-ounce block of cream cheese. And that cream cheese looks funny because I had it in the freezer, and I kind of always have cream cheese in the freezer because I just love having cream cheese on hand. When you freeze cream cheese, there's our corn outside. When you freeze cream cheese, it changes the consistency of it, and it makes it difficult to use for maybe spreading on bagels or something like that. But for cooking, it's just fine. I cook my eggs and with cream cheese all the time. So we're going to, you guessed it, a couple good pinches of salt, pepper, and at this point I'm going to add either milk or my cream till it kind of gets to the consistency I want. It's a little thick, so I'm going to add about another half a cup of cream. So a lot of people don't put the cream cheese in their cream corn, but we just love it that way. We think it's so good. And once this is nice and hot and cooking, I'm going to cook it for maybe 5 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes, and then it's going to be ready and good to go. Some people put nutmeg in theirs too, and I think that's because of the cream. Cream and nutmeg go really well together. This is just pretty basic in how we like it. So I think that's pretty much how I want it. The creaminess that I want it. And remember, it's going to thicken up as it cools. So when this is finishing, it's 5 minutes of cooking. I'm going to go pull that corn off the grill. So here we are. We have our sauteed corn with red peppers, our cream style corn, and our grilled corn hot off the grill. Now, these corns that have the husk on, of course, obviously, you have to peel the husk back to eat them. And you can see the steam coming off there. And it's easy if you leave this on, because this is kind of like your handle to eat it. So we're going to treat the two that we grilled in the husk. We're going to lay them on our platter, and a little bit of salt. And this is some jalapeno butter that I made, and it is roasted jalapenos, cilantro, and cotija cheese. And we are going to just coat this grilled corn with this jalapeno butter and let that melt. Our corn that's in the foil, we're going to take out of the foil. And look how beautiful that turned out. And I have several different butters for these. Now, you can treat these with the butter of your choice. And the butter of my choice today is barbecue butter. I think that's the one I'm going to have. You can see I'm making a huge mess over here. Usually not that difficult. Alright, let's do one more. So, the butters that I chose today are the jalapeno butter, and then I have my dill butter, and my dill butter is garlic, shallots, and dill. I'm going to set that up on my corn and just let it melt. And I also have a barbecue butter, and the barbecue butter is my barbecue dust, Worcestershire, hot sauce, and of course garlic and shallots. This is some Amish butter. I'm going to break that one in half and just set it up here. I'm going to let these butters melt in. Give them all a little bit of salt, because I never salt my butters because I want to have control of the salt. And some pepper. Now, I think with the corn, the dill butter is fantastic. I think dill goes really good with the corn. I love the barbecue butter with the corn too. This Amish butter, which is 94% butter fat, is just so tasty. It's perfect on the corn. And of course, we have our jalapeno. So this is our tray of grilled corn. Now, wouldn't that be beautiful on a buffet table to serve? So I'm going to taste this one, because this is one of my favorite ones. This is really hot. So I just love those red peppers and corn together. So I just love when that corn still has that bite to it, when it hasn't been overcooked. So good. So sweet. They're so good together. So this is going to make Billy happy tonight because he's going to get his cream corn. And this cream corn, it's got that beautiful creaminess. It's like velvet. It's like corn wrapped in velvet. So beautiful. So good. So I really hope that you loved our trip through the corn today and these super easy and quick ways to do corn. It's a great summer fresh vegetable. So until next time, safe cruising. It's summertime, and that means fresh, sweet, summertime corn. Hi there, I'm Gary, and we are in a cornfield. Guess what? It is time for summertime fresh corn. Are you ready? Acres and acres and acres of fresh summertime corn. Oh, hi! There you are. I found all the corn.